I'm gonna help you choose your first kettlebell weight. Kettlebells are amazing in that they can build strength, cardio, muscle, mobility in a really short amount of time, but obviously you need to know what kettlebell to pick to start. So in this video, I want to help you choose your first kettlebell weight. First, I'll take you through an analytical approach and then an intuitive approach, and then just figure out how to think about actually choosing the right kettlebell and where to buy it. The analytical approach for choosing your first kettlebell weight is if you have access to a gym or a local sporting goods store, experiment with the kettlebells there, and essentially you want to pick a kettlebell and see how many clean and presses you can do. And essentially you want to pick a kettlebell that you can do about 10 clean and presses on either side, and around the 10th rep, it starts feeling pretty moderately difficult that you feel like you could probably only get 2 to 3. Obviously start low and go high as opposed to just picking one off the bat, because if you go too heavy and you really try to push to get that 10th rep, I don't want you to get injured here. So I think why that's a great metric to use is that essentially that's about that nice range where you have a moderately heavy weight and you're doing a foundational movement. And so that way you'll also be able to do kettlebell rack squats. You'll also be able to do some longer kettlebell carries, and it will just kind of set you up to do foundational movements with kettlebells. Now, if you don't have access to a kettlebell through a gym or a local sporting good, now I'm just going to kind of give you a more intuitive approach from research I've seen and just kind of helping my friends and family with their kettlebell experience. So generally, if you're a woman, I would start with 8 kilogram kettlebell, which is about 17 pounds. And if you're a man, about a 12 kilogram kettlebell, which is about 27 pounds. And, again, these are super blanket recommendations. So obviously this uses as a starting point. So, if you're older, maybe above 55, above 60, or you're, have never touched a weight in your life or just haven't had any strength training experience, I would say bring these numbers down a bit. So for women, that might be a 6 kilogram, around 13 pound kettlebell. For men, that might be a 10 kilogram kettlebell, around 22 pounds. And then obviously if, you've done strength training and, you have some experience in the gym, or you're just generally on the stronger side, then, bump that up on the other side to 2 kilograms. So 10 kilograms for women, which is about 22 pounds, and then about maybe a 14 kilogram kettlebell for men, which is around 30 pounds. And yeah, again, just general blanket recommendations from my research and what I've seen. At the end of the day, I can't speak for, your strength and your experience. So use these as guidelines, and at the end of the day, you know your body well, and choose something that feels right for you. In terms of what kettlebells to buy, there are 2 important things to look at. One, which is really important, make sure the kettlebells are cast iron and not any other material, especially something like plastic. Cast iron kettlebells are meant to last for forever. It's meant to be a lifetime purchase, and they're gonna both be long lasting and they're gonna feel comfortable and not slip out of your hand. And then the other thing to look at, make sure when you're buying kettlebell, it doesn't say the word competition. Competition kettlebells are quite large and they are the same size no matter what weight it is. So there's nothing wrong with those kettlebells inherently, but they're meant more for more experienced people, and specifically people training in what's called kettlebell sport, which I'm not that familiar with. And especially if you're using your first kettlebell, you're most likely 99% of the time not jumping into that. So make sure that they're cast iron and that they're just a regular kettlebell, not competition. You'll be able to tell if they're a regular kettlebell is that you can see the size go up as the weight increases, similar to what you'd find in a dumbbell. So those are 2 things to look at. Finally, where do you buy kettlebells? So first off, start locally. Again, I would say that analytical approach I mentioned is the best way. So if you're able to go to a store and try out kettlebells there, or you tried it in the gym, then you can just choose one there. You don't have to worry about any shipping fees or anything like that. So if the local store doesn't work for you, definitely you can try Amazon. The shipping fees should be low. The costs should be more affordable. And you can find anything from about 10 pounds, and then they'll just go up by 5 pound increments from there. And you should be able to find what you want if it's your first kettlebell. And if you want to not go with Amazon and go more for a specific fitness brand, this isn't a comprehensive list, but 2 kettlebells brands I can vouch for are, one is Perform Better, which I've used those kettlebells personally. And then the other is Rogue Fitness, which is just a huge fitness brand. And while I haven't used Rogue kettlebell specifically, Rogue is just such a universal fitness brand that I can definitely vouch for those being really good kettlebells. Those two brands are going to be a little bit pricier, but what you'll find compared to, say, Amazon is that they're going to be made with a little bit more care because they're specifically a fitness brand. So they're probably going to be a bit more comfortable, a bit more long lasting. And also, if you care about this, they'll probably just look a little bit more aesthetically pleasing, if you care about that for your home gym. One thing to note here is that shipping costs here do tend to be higher just given the weight of the kettlebells, which is unfortunate. So if you go with one of those two, I would even recommend taking whatever kettlebell you picked from the first half of this video and then getting a second one that's about 4 kilograms higher, which is about 9-10 pounds higher, just so that now if you're going to anyways pay that shipping cost, you can get that first kettlebell weight, and then you can get another one that you'll probably end up using in 6 months to a year as you get stronger. So yeah, that is my recommendation for you. Let me know if you find that helpful. Leave any follow-up questions you have in the comment section in case I missed something, and I reply there. And if I miss something big, I can make a follow-up video. Up next, you can watch one of these 4 kettlebell videos that should help you going through benefits, workouts, training philosophy, and specific exercises. So yeah, hopefully you find this helpful, and I'll see you for the next one.